It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Monster Monday presented, of course, by DraftKings. I am Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years, and I am so pumped to be back. And I don't know what we call it, live, present. I think a lot of you that have been listening for a long time, or those of you that watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, realize that the last 2 weeks were not live shows in the sense that we didn't have any Tux takes. They were what we call evergreens. They were interviews that we had recorded before our respective vacations, which, by the way, that is going to be a big chunk of today's big show. Now, there's a lot of news to get to. Baker Mayfield and Heinz Field and the Texans settling a lawsuit and the Patriots trading N'Keal Harry. I mean, there's a lot that happened over the last 2 weeks. And I'm going to recap all the stuff that I think was important, give you my thoughts on it. Maybe some of you went on vacations as well and you weren't paying attention. I'll get you up to date. That's what we do. But this show is typically time sensitive, right? We are keeping you up to date, 30 minutes or less. We try on everything going on in the NFL. Well, the last couple of weeks, it wasn't time sensitive. Brian and I actually recorded those shows ahead of time because of our respective vacations, which, as I said, we'll get to in a little bit. I will say this, though. I would love to get feedback from any of you, whether it's social media, at Ross Tucker NFL, at Ross Tucker Pod. Maybe you hit me up with a Facebook message, or maybe you just email me, ross@rosstucker.com. Would love to get your feedback on your thoughts on the quote-unquote evergreen episodes. Did you notice? Did it bother you that we didn't have the news of the day? You know, we obviously picked the time of the year where there's the least amount of news over the last couple of weeks. I went to Alaska with my family for a week. Brian went to Europe with his son, who just graduated from high school, for a couple weeks. So it was awesome. It feels great to be back. And even though it's a Monday, it's been so long since we've picked winners. And I'm so excited I feel like I'm like reconnecting. This is the longest Brian and I have gone without talking to each other in 10 years. I mean, it was over 2 weeks. We hadn't talked to each other for over 2 weeks. In 10 years, that's how long it's been since Brian and I, at least that, because before that, we were doing Sports USA stuff. And it feels like it's been that long since I've talked with each and every one of you. If you can't tell, I'm pretty fired up, pretty excited to be back. Training camp's open really a week from the day, which is insane. Before we get to the big show, I want to give out some winners. Let them know, Mike Singletary, how they can win.
I want winners. I want people that want to win.
Right? We do too. I am rejuvenated, refreshed. That's what they say you should do on a vacation, right? It should sort of refresh you, recharge the batteries. That is exactly what happened. Because I had 1 week on vacation in Alaska. Then I had a week where I was home, but not recording shows because Bri was in Europe. I'm ready. I'm ready to roll, and I'm ready to thank each and every one of you that listen to every episode or you watch or whatever, and especially those of you that go the extra mile in whatever way it is that you guys go the extra mile. The spread the word winner, how about Keith Shoemaker? I saw where Keith retweeted at Ross Tucker Pod yesterday on Sunday with, I think it was the Tony Baselli talking about his dad's video from him making the Hall of Fame, which is just unbelievable if you think about it. I don't want to think about it too much again because I don't want to get choked up, but just an incredible, incredible story. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I'm actually going to be part of Tony Baselli's Hall of Fame enshrinement party. I'm going there. I've never been there. I'm going to be there for, Friday and Saturday. Friday, gold jacket. Saturday, enshrinement. Saturday night, the private party. I'm really looking forward to it. I've never been. So looking forward to it and feel honored that Tony invited me. The sponsor confirmation email winner, Ben Mullins, UFOs. You guys have no idea how much I love UFOs. It's like a game changer. Literally on the boat in Alaska, I told the captain of the boat, because he was wearing another brand, which shall not be named. I'm like, dude, you got to get UFOs. It it is 37% more shock absorption for your joints. It's incredible. I I don't think UFOs even knows how much I spread the word about them. Love them. Love you, Ben Mullen. Ben Mullen's got him for his whole family. What a rock star. Ben, let me know. Ross at rosstucker.com if you want to sign press pass or picture or football card or whatever. I still have some amazing press passes, by the way. I have the press pass from that Rams Bucks playoff game I was in the booth for, which would have been Brady's last game ever if he didn't come back again. And I have a sideline pass from that one. I've got a pass from the Rams Cardinals playoff game. Kind of cool that I called two of the Rams games and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. Sideline pass from that one as well. I got the Army Navy, the Ravens, Thanksgiving Sunday night against the Browns. I've got some awesome press passes still. So let me know what you want, Ben, or anybody else that decides to step up and win this week. You can always spread the word by just giving us a 5-star review, any of our shows on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and shoot it to me, Ross at rosstucker.com. The YouTube shout out winner, Magic. Oh, it's magic. You know, MAJIC. That guy has become the number one YouTube commenter. I mean, I don't know who he is, where I think he's international because he comments on the shows on YouTube before I even wake up, before I even realize they're posted. Magic, you get the YouTube shout out, man. You are a stud. You're all studs. I'm happy to be back. Engage, Maverick. It's just about football season. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, so there's actually a decent amount of Tuck's takes to get to, which is why we didn't want to have a guest because you just had 6 guests the last couple weeks. As a reminder, we do go 5 days a week, starting with week 1 of the NFL season through the Super Bowl. So we are your daily football content machine. But we thought we've been away. We know that you guys have been, a lot of you have been following us for 10 years. So we thought we would discuss our vacations a little bit. And since I've been talking for a while, Bri, we'll start with you. And you were gone, what, 13 days? Give us sort of the breakdown, Bri.
Actually, it was 11 days. Flew out on July the 3rd and then got into London on July 4th. Flew overnight. Spent 3 days in London, 3 days in Paris, and then flew to Florence, Italy. From there, drove down to Rome for 3 days, and then flew home. So just an unbelievable trip. This is my graduation present to my son, and it was just the two of us. My wife doesn't like to fly internationally, so she doesn't like to fly domestically either. So it was just the two of us, and it was awesome. It was great bonding time. You know, he's about to go off to college. He's got his friends. He does his thing, and I'm traveling a lot. So to have 10, 11 days of just the two of us was just phenomenal.
Brian, I'm getting chills right now. Between Tony Baselli Thursday and now you today, I'm like getting chills. That is incredible. What an amazing dad you are. What an amazing graduation gift. I mean, I think my parents gave me like $100 maybe. Like I definitely did not get a Euro trip with my dad for my high school graduation gift. That's amazing. What I have 2 different parts of it. 2 different questions. So the first question is favorite place and or places.
I would say out of the 3 countries, it was definitely Italy. And that is, we were both blown away. And we said, we're, not a once in a lifetime because we're going to figure out a way to get back at some point. And I've already told him, I said, look, you graduate college, pick your destinations. Like that was the deal. Pick your destinations. You want to go somewhere? I didn't want to make it like you just said, oh, here's $100. I didn't want to make it like a, oh, here's a token, here's a new phone, here's a new whatever. Like we're gonna go do an experience. So I said, you graduate college, let's do it again. And my other son, who's 2 years behind him, I'm like, where do you want to go in 2 years when you graduate? So we're gonna do the same thing. Well, not the same countries, but the same premise. Something that you're gonna remember forever.
So cool. And could not agree more about giving experiences as gifts, giving time and things that you'll remember. I like, if you ever saw me in public, Bri, you have, but other people, I don't spend a lot of money on material things. Pretty much everything I wear, like literally, you might think, oh, Ross looks nice today. He's got a polo shirt on. Yeah. I'm going to a Princeton football event tonight. So I'm wearing a Princeton football polo that they gave me for free. Like I don't spend money on things very often, but I do spend money on time and experiences. You and I are in lockstep on that, Bri. What was so great about Italy? Now I've been there, but I only was there once. I was there after my 5th year in the NFL. My wife and I did a Euro trip, and we went to Rome, Florence, and Venice. And I remember it being, here's the thing I remember. I don't like wine, Bri. I really don't. I drank the crap out of wine in Italy. I loved the wine in it. To me, it was so much better than the wine in the United States. I also remember, Bri, like the earliest you could get dinner reservations was like 8 o'clock. And we would show up at 8 o'clock and nobody would be there. And I would be like, I was like, what kind of joint are they running here? But I guess that's just like, it's just more laid back. And then they'd get there and they'd open it up and the place would be full and the food would be great. And they just keep bringing the wine. And we end up having a great night. But you know the way I am, Bri, it would drive me bananas that I would, because I'd be starving. It's like 8 o'clock and they wouldn't even be there. I'm like, I have a reservation. It's kind of funny. But yes, that's some of the things I remember. But what was it about Italy that you guys loved so much?
Well, the food definitely number one. Number two, the people. People were just so nice and friendly. But I think the highlight of the trip, and I wasn't sure I was going to do this, but I'm so glad we did, was we flew into Florence and then stayed up in Tuscany for the night. So it was about a half hour outside of Florence. And then the next morning drove to Pisa, looked at a building that was kind of leaning and said, okay, great. And then we got in the car and drove. But it was a 3-hour drive, 3.5-hour drive down to Rome, and just driving through the country. It was just something that you don't normally do. And just, the food, the atmosphere, just everything about it. We're just like, sign me up. I'm coming back.
That's a great point. I don't remember how we got from Florence to Venice to Rome. I really don't. But that's a great point, is that when you visit countries, you usually just go to major cities. So you don't like drive through or see what like the rest of the country's really like.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Because I remember we did the Leaning Tower of Pisa as well. I guess you sort of have to. But that's awesome.
My I don't want to say regret, but my one thing I wish we had done, I wish we were able to figure out a way to get to Venice. But, with the limited time and, we just couldn't make it work. I mean, I had a flight going into London. I had a flight coming home from Rome, and just, okay, how do we get from A to B to C? And I was trying to make it work, but couldn't make Venice work. And I'm sorry that we couldn't do it because I really want to see that, but we'll do that another time.
Well, you said it's not a once in a lifetime. We want to go back. So maybe you go back to Italy, and that's where you hit it up. You hit it up when you go back a second time. That's incredible. Okay, the second question is, what was the best part of being with your son? So you said the best part, what you guys liked the most was Italy, and you liked driving through the countryside. Was there anything in particular, like conversations or just him not being on his devices, or like what was the best part about, because by the way, you're giving me an idea. Like I'm doing this now, I think, for when my daughters graduate from high school. Although my wife, absolutely, she's the polar opposite of your wife. My wife loves to travel and loves to travel internationally. So, oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. Before I get to that last one about your son, what was it like traveling internationally, like COVID restrictions? Was there any, like, did you notice it at all? What was that part of it like?
Nothing. The only time I had to show a vaccination card was getting on the train from London to Paris. Um, but all the other restrictions were lifted. We didn't have to, like when I came back from Canada for hockey playoffs. We had to go get a COVID test the day before and to get back into the US. Well, those restrictions were lifted in the middle of June. So it was really minimal.
Got it. Okay. And then the last question I had about, um, just about the best part about being with your son.
Just being able to hang out and kind of crack jokes and just make each other laugh and just bond. It sounds corny and sappy, but it was making memories, and it was we used to do a lot together. And now he's 18, he's got his own friends, he's got his own life, and he's doing stuff on his own. But to be able to have the 10, 11 days of uninterrupted, it's just us. And there was an aspect of it where it was, yes, this is father son, but it was kind of just two guys hanging out. And
Wow.
that's just
Two
special.
guys hanging out. That's crazy. And it's not corny or sappy. It's awesome. And if you're the type of person listening or watching that doesn't like to acknowledge those things or talk about those things, come on, man. I mean, you only get one life. Those are the things that really matter. Those are the things that are really important. It's not corny. It's not sappy. It's freaking awesome. You know what else is awesome? In all sincerity, Bri, before I get to the Alaska trip, it was so nice to be away, because we ended up being away for 10 days and to come back and we knew everything was fine at our house because of the security system. If you haven't yet gotten the security system, in particular Simply Safe, I highly, highly recommend it, because you go away. Look, I'm posting pictures and stuff on social media. People can tell I'm not in Pennsylvania anymore. I'm in Alaska. So theoretically, if some people know where I live, they could come. Good luck, because I've got Simply Safe. It's the security system named Best Home Security of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report, a third year in a row. They have monitoring plans that are affordably priced at $1 a day with no long-term contract or hidden fees. It's awesome to have when you go to bed at night because you're safe. But it's awesome when you come back from vacation, like what Brian and I are talking about, because nobody was in your house. Because if they were, the system would have went off. You can customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/Tucker. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off with interactive monitoring. Again, that's simplysafe.com/Tucker. My highest recommendation. You guys know when I feel really strongly about a sponsor, my highest recommendation, simplysafe.com/Tucker. All right, for me, Bri, we left on Friday, July 1st, and we went straight to, we flew from Baltimore, BWI, to Seattle, Seattle to Sitka, Alaska. And so what we did was, my father-in-law is a big outdoorsman, and he has been up in Southeast Alaska hunting with a guide up there a couple of times. And the guide said, you know what? In the summer, when it's not hunting season for bear or mountain goat or whatever, we actually do sort of private cruises for families. So it was awesome. I mean, it was so cool because it was my family, the four of us, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and their two boys, and my father-in-law and mother-in-law. And then we happened to have, they had a staff of, there was a chef, and then there was a guide, and then the guide's wife, and the guide's and wife's two children, who they all helped in their different ways. So basically, all we did was drive around these different islands and inlets in Southeast Alaska and see wildlife and do outdoors things. I mean, so first of all, about 45 minutes out of Sitka, lost cell phone service, Bry. Did not get it back for 6 days.
I remember you had mentioned right before we went on vacation, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Alaska's gonna be great, but I'm not gonna have cell coverage. I don't know what to do.
Well, 6 days is a lot. I'll say that. When I got back, Baker Mayfield got traded. Also, there was just so many text messages and emails. You're on a boat. So what would have been great is if I just had 20 minutes every morning to check my social media text message and email, because you're on a boat traveling somewhere anyway. You know what I mean? You're not like doing an activity. But we got crazy close to whales who were breaching, within like 50 yards, 50 feet maybe of the boat. And the kids were going crazy. We got within 50 yards of a black bear. A lot of daddy sodas were had. We had a heck of a cooler that we brought. So many bald eagles. We went for walks. I did a lot of paddle boarding, and I kayaked to an iceberg. Kayak to an iceberg with my wife. There were glaciers. There were hot springs. I swam in like a 30-degree lake, or I guess it wasn't 30 degrees, but like 36-degree lake. It was just so cool. We would play board games at night or talk, and a lot of bonding, a lot of the same things you're talking about, Bri. And then right when we landed, we went right to the beach for a couple of days because I had been missing it and knew that I wasn't going to go for a while. And then we got home. So it was a great, great trip. The cool thing was just that much time with my family, my father-in-law, mother-in-law. And I would say, Bri, one of the 3 most beautiful places I've ever been in my life.
That's a
Like,
bucket
there
list for
were a
me.
lot of times where I said to myself, I've seen this before in a movie. This is like a movie. The other places I remember thinking were this beautiful were like Queenstown, New Zealand, Salzburg, Austria. It just was breathtaking. The amount of waterfalls we saw and went to, it was absolutely awesome. Really, really enjoyed it. Highly recommend everybody. I think I put this on social media when I got back at Ross Tucker NFL, but really encourage you, if you can, to get Alaska on your bucket list. And I would say, especially if you could do it, something like that, as opposed to, I think the big boat cruises are awesome too. And I actually did that 12 years ago, but this is a little bit different. We would go a couple days without seeing another human being or another boat. It was really, really sort of authentic Alaskan. It was great. So I'm glad we did that, Brian. Let's get to some Tux takes now.
Tux takes.
All right. Well, I guess the biggest news would be Baker Mayfield traded for a conditional 5th-round pick. Browns pay $10.5 million. Panthers $4.5 million. Baker can make the remaining $3.5 million back in incentives.
So this makes perfect sense in my mind for the Panthers. They're really paying him $4.5 million, and that's a bargain for Baker the way he's played previously in his career. Conditional 5th-round pick that can be a 4th depending on how much he plays. And Matt Rule is on the hot seat and needs to have success. So for all those reasons, it makes a bunch of sense. I kind of thought Baker would be a better fit in Seattle and that Jimmy Garoppolo would be a better fit in Carolina. But for whatever reasons, maybe some of it's financial, the Panthers didn't want to go that route. The other thing I don't think it was talked about enough in this, Baker Mayfield gave up $3.5 million. I don't know that I would have done that if I were him. I think I would have just said to the Browns, cut me. $3.5 million? Are you kidding me? But he did that because he wanted a fresh start, and he'll be the starter in Carolina. I don't care what anybody says.
Tuck's Takes.
Pittsburgh Steelers have a lot more money to spend now that Heinz Field out as title sponsor of the stadium. Acrisure is the new title sponsor. $10 million a year. That's is it double or even triple of what Heinz was paying?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Acrisure, Bry?
I have not. No, I know it's an insurance company in the Midwest, but
right. Well, that is exactly why they did this. Now we've all heard of them. It's interesting that an insurance company none of us have ever heard of can afford to pay $10 million a year. I think what I don't love about it is, I love that Heinz is Pittsburgh based. It's really cool to me when the naming rights are a company that's based in that city. That just makes more sense to me. I also have always felt like the value in naming rights is before the stadium is built and when it first opens, and having it be synonymous with that stadium. Whereas, I hate to break it to Acrisure Stadium, but not many people are going to call it Acrisure Stadium. I mean, they will on the television broadcast and stuff and the radio broadcast because that's the official name now. But that's still Heinz Field, bro. People are still going to call that Heinz Field. I don't see the value of naming rights really that much later on after the stadium has already been named something else for a long time. That's just my opinion.
Or especially after it changes 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, moving on. Edge rusher Justin Houston re-signs with the Baltimore Ravens.
Makes sense. They obviously have some young guys, but especially after the tragic passing of Jalen Ferguson, they certainly needed another guy like Houston.
Tuck's Takes.
Patriots trade wide receiver N'Keal Harry to the Chicago Bears and in return get a 7th-round pick in 2024.
Definitely worth a shot for the Bears. 2024 7th-round pick. Given who the Bears have at receiver, this is absolutely a good move for them and worth a shot. As for the Patriots, they should probably just stop going ahead and drafting receivers in the first couple rounds. It is unreal how bad they have been drafting receivers in the first couple rounds under Bill Belichick, just like it's unreal how many people don't realize you can get lightweight linen and breathable cotton suits for the summer. I can't tell how many people I've talked to that have been to summer weddings. That's what happens, right? You're in your late 20s, early 30s. I actually have a wedding in September that I might be able to hit up for a little bit. Express has seersucker and more fabrics to choose from. Seersucker suits are so money. Absolutely perfect picks for weddings. Find an outfit for every destination at Express, online or in store.
Tuck's Takes.
Houston Texans settle 30 lawsuits with some of these accusers in the Deshaun Watson, can I call it fiasco?
I don't know. I don't know what to call it. Issue, lawsuit. It's interesting. More women sued the Texans than sued Deshaun Watson. I guess I'm not quite sure I understand that one. Because if the Texans did something wrong, then clearly Watson did something wrong. Otherwise, the Texans didn't do anything wrong. But the Texans just wanted to make sure this was over and done with and that they could move on.
Tuck's Takes.
Commanders owner Dan Snyder still trying to avoid subpoena on his yacht.
I mean, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up. People are going ahead and they are tracking his yacht now. But what Snyder is doing is he's trying to run out the clock so that he doesn't get subpoenaed until the election potentially, so that maybe then he never gets subpoenaed. It's extremely distasteful, and I'll leave it at that.
Tuck's Takes.
couple of longtime NFL vets retire, including Mitchell Schwartz, Jason McCourty, and Richie Incognito again.
McCourty and Incognito both played 13 years. It's hard for me to explain in words to you guys how impressive that is. Playing 13 years in the NFL is really, really hard to do. Really hard to do. As for Mitchell Schwartz, played 9 years, but he at one point had over 8,000 consecutive snaps, which is extremely impressive, especially considering he had a back surgery in college that I didn't know about. But Mitchell and I were going back and forth on Twitter, talking to each other, because I said to him, you're making the right decision, because he had a second back surgery, which is what's preventing him from playing again. And I just told him he absolutely did the right thing by not having a third surgery or not coming back to play, because even if you feel good, it's kind of always there.
Tuck's Takes.
And finally, none of the 4 franchise tag guys actually signed their long-term deals.
Orlando Brown, a lot of people thought he was going to get a deal done. It didn't happen. They tried hard. Jesse Bates, Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz. So none of those guys got deals done, and that's usually because of the difference or the delta. Why do people say delta? Why don't they just say the difference? But the delta between what they're getting paid on the franchise tag and what they're being offered, or guys at their position get on long-term deals right now. So that'll do it. So fired up. We're back as well on the College Draft Podcast today. We're going over the top 10 prospects, according to Emory Hunt, in the Big 12. So if you like any Big 12 college teams, you got to listen or watch the College Draft Podcast. You can listen or watch the ACC last week. Or if you're just an NFL fan and you want to get a jump start on some of the top prospects for next year's draft, you can do that as well on today's College Draft. Fezzik is back on the Even Money Podcast tomorrow, and he's got a lot to say. Get excited, everybody. Football is just about here. I think rookies for a couple teams report to training camp today. Yuck. That makes me sick to my stomach. I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.